OK Go is something that I really treasure, which is a band. They are a band. For 12 years, Damian, Tim, Andy, and Dan have played countless rock shows. They've made 4 full-length albums, a bunch of EPs. They've made a video or 2. I think the views are up about 12,000 at this point. Is that where you have 12? The 20,000 range, so if you guys keep working on it, maybe you've got something there. One of the things that I really enjoy about Damian and the entire band is not only are they incredibly hardworking, which if you've had the pleasure of seeing them live, you know all the sort of work and care that they put into their craft. They also have been central to this whole kind of question of what is the kind of reformation and the sort of structuring of the music economy going to look like. And they've been navigating that with a lot of grace and a lot of humility and a lot of success. But beyond that, they've been really active and then trying to translate that for others, particularly here in Washington, the policy community, in terms of looking at their own experience and experience of other bands and really thinking and talking about what does that mean for supporting non-commercial radio. They did a wonderful project with their friends Bonorama in 2008 to help raise awareness for post-Katrina New Orleans and the efforts to rebuild there. And they've been very active at the FCC and in Congress talking about issues like net neutrality and the impact of consolidation. On October 14th, they released their 4th full-length album, Hungry Ghosts, on their own Paracadute label. Yes! And Damian was going to actually speak this morning. He has an excused absence. He actually was on the Today Show this morning where they premiered OK Go's new music video, I Won't Let You Down. So straight from the Acela in New York City, Damian Kulash.
Hi, everyone. Just so I know who I'm talking to, how many musicians in the room? I mean, like, primarily musicians. Okay, and how many music industry people? Primarily? All right, and then like other tech, other investment, okay. It's kind of, when I asked Michael, I was like, who am I talking to? And he's like, well, it's about 50% musicians, about 50% industry people, and there's about 50% tech people, and about 25%, and it was like, you're at like 300%. And he was like, well, I'm a politician. All right, well, so I will quickly tell our story for those who don't know. The band started in 1998. Very soon, like we had recorded exactly 1 demo when we were in Chicago, and we got a call from a local cable access TV show, and they said they wanted to have us on. And we were like, fuck, this band's going fucking great. Like we're going to do like a televised musical performance. It's really exciting. Turned out that they don't have the capacity to record bands, so you had to go on and lip sync, and we were like, fuck. So before we'd even started, we had to like go lip sync a song. We thought that was pretty uncool. But if we were going to do it, we were going to like swing for the fences. So we spent a week learning every move we could from like NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, and my girlfriend at the time who had been a cheerleader. So we came up with this totally ridiculous dance that no one ever saw because there's only 14 people who get that particular cable access channel. But I was working at NPR at the time, and so I asked all of the local Chicago radio hosts if they would be our backup band, like do this thing behind us while we were dancing. And so we had Peter Sagal and Ira Glass and all the local people as our band. And so, so this thing that we thought was a musical performance had like sort of turned into a TV stunt before we had ever even gotten to do much with it. And then a few years later, Ira asked us to come on tour with him as his backup band when he did live shows for This American Life. I'm trying to get through this really quick. So, because I know it's late. You've been through this whole day and you just want to drink. I know. We're in New York and he's like, you got to do that dance again. I'm like, Ira, you can't hear dance on a radio show. He's like, I don't care. You got to do the dance. So we did the dance and brought down the house. I mean, it was amazing. It was 2,500 people, which was 2,500 more than we'd ever played to before. And so this thing that was like that we thought was a musical performance turned into this weird TV stunt, and then turned into like something we were doing on theater. And a couple years later, where we were at the Leeds Festival, and there's 100,000 people and 150 bands, and we couldn't figure out what we could possibly do to break through the noise that anyone would possibly see. And we're like, we got to do that fucking dance. So we did the dance, and this thing now, so now we've got, we thought it was a musical performance, but actually it was a TV stunt, but actually it was a theater thing for a radio show, but then actually it's something you do at live shows. And we then decided, wait, this really works at live shows, so we started ending all of our shows that way. Next album came out a year or two later, and we couldn't keep ending our shows with that same dumb dance because it's from an old album. So we came up with a new dumb dance, and right at the time we had come up with this new dumb dance, we found out that our favorite video director, Michel Gondry, was coming up with like this massive choreographed dance routine for some guy named Kanye, and we were like, "That's bullshit. We are the dance band." And so we recorded ourselves in my backyard doing this dance and tried to send it to Michel Gondry. He never got it, but it was really funny. Like our bassist head gets cut off at the end. The whole thing's, well, not actually cut off, but out of frame. And so we sent it to some friends online. This is the year before YouTube happened, and there was a site called iFilm, and within a month or so, we noticed it had been downloaded 300,000 times, which was more records than we had sold in the 5 years prior. So suddenly this thing, like, it's musical, no wait, it's TV, no it's theater, no it's now kind of like this weird viral video. And then we realized if we could do that by accident, we should do it on purpose. So we made another one where we were dancing on treadmills, and then we're like, wait, these are actually music videos. Suddenly MTV started playing it, and then we got a Grammy, and blah, blah, blah. Now we've made like another 15 of them in the last few years, and like you said, we premiered one today. It's got more than 1 million hits in less than 10 hours, and we're super psyched. So that's our there's our story. We're that fucking video band, as you already know. And the big point here is that this is most distinctly not a good model. Like, don't try this at home. It's not a good. I mean, it's not a good model for lots of reasons, but the primary one is that nobody else will be able to do this. There is no more YouTube. I mean, there is YouTube, but you can't break YouTube with a new treadmill video. It's not like that happened. You know, maybe somebody could do it with Twitter, but that kind of already came and went. I mean, like that. If there is a model here at all, it's that like we just made some cool shit and we didn't know what it was. It was like, well, we've been making this thing and it turned into that thing and it turned into that thing, and we just chased our good ideas because they were exciting to us and had the incredibly naive business plan that we still use, which is just basically the roadrunner off the cliff, just like, don't fucking look down. Just like make stuff that's good and worry about how you're gonna pay for it later. Bad business plan. However, it is a good creative plan, and it's basically the only thing that can happen in the music industry right now. And so, like, the idea of getting a bunch of people together to figure out what the future of music is, like, if there is any answer that's sort of broad enough to cover it sort of reasonably, is that everybody will have a different path. That music isn't the same thing. Music didn't mean recorded music in 1850. You know, like it was an ephemeral, ethereal experience that was time-based and sound-based. You know, and think of how different that was by the time we were watching her come down the steps in Material Girl, or like, you know, that awesome party that I never got to go to in the Nirvana video. You know, like what the product that we make, the experience that we make, the creativity that we do. It's changing with the modes of distribution all the time. So the idea that in this time when our modes of distribution are changing so incredibly fast, we're going to come up with one answer, or we're gonna like there'll be a stable model anytime soon is totally ludicrous. I mean, it's great that everybody's trying to figure out these models because we need a lot of them. And this sort of segues into why I care specifically about what's happening here, because my pet thing is net neutrality. I think if we don't have, if we can't let everybody try these models, if the only people who get to decide what these models are Comcast and whatever other, you know, and the Time Warner that they seek to buy right now, we're only going to get one answer, and it's going to be a really shitty one. So to that end, I testified before Congress in 2008 on net neutrality issues, and it's 2014, and we're having the same exact talk, which is. It's like, this problem has lasted longer than rap metal did, and is, like, I think even more painful, to tell you the truth. But the good thing is that now actually people do know about this, and this is largely because people like you and me care and are trying to trumpet it across the world, and that needs to continue. Like, there's now 4 million people who have given public comments on the FCC's most current proceedings, and that was not the case in 2008. And our ask for the FCC is pretty simple. It's like, you know how when you pick up the phone, you don't have to wait for all the rich people to be done talking before you get to talk? Like, it's exactly the same. I mean, when you put bits on the internet, they're supposed to go from here to there without you having to go ask, like, oh wait, but hold on, am I Netflix and have I paid enough yet? You know, and it's like, you know, in 2010, the FCC came up with the Open Internet Order, and at least got part of the way there, saying that you couldn't block certain kinds of content. And even though those rules didn't go even close to far enough, Verizon still sued them out of court, like blammo. And and we're still sort of fighting that battle. We shouldn't be. I mean, we shouldn't still be fighting whether or not the FCC is allowed to make these rules. Sorry. So what the court said was that that the FCC is allowed to make these rules. They had just made them the wrong way. And this is where it sort of gets into the weeds. And I imagine you guys have heard from much smarter people on this stuff earlier today. The point is that this fight is very much still going on, and it affects like every other thing that has happened here today about whether or not you are doing, whether or not you're into copyright or you're into investment or you're into social justice, or like there's so many things that sort of cross over with music and policy and tech. All of them need a platform that is not tilted by gatekeepers. And those of you who work at record labels know exactly what I'm talking about, gatekeeper style. So I think that I really don't want to go on too long because I know how late it is and how much, I mean, I've been through these things before. This is fun for a little while. Do you guys, but before, I mean, don't hold each other from whiskey, but is there anything you would like to, should we ask any questions or talk anything? Anyone have anything to ask? How long did it take to record that? The video that came out this morning, it took about well, it took 4 days of shooting and it took about a month of prep. And it took several thousand Japanese schoolgirls. How do you look in a little red skirt? No, this will definitely sound as pretentious and highfalutin as it is, but I really don't. When I'm making something, when I'm sitting down writing a song, I'm thinking about the way that sounds and the way that makes me feel. When I'm recording a song, I'm thinking about how it makes me feel. When I'm working on a show, I'm trying to figure out how the audience is going to feel. Like, you know your creative boundaries usually when you're making something. But aside from that, I try pretty actively not to think of these things as being distinct art forms because they're all ones and zeros, you know? I mean, at least for us, like, we want to make awesome stuff that our fans can engage with and that we have fun making. And it really is, it has been consistently a surprise where the money comes from or which things work best. You know, I mean, we were early to licensing. Like most other people in the early aughts didn't want their stuff in commercials, and we thought at least it was getting out there, and our label certainly wasn't doing that. So for a long time we made money off of licensing, and then everybody started doing that, so now there's not as much money in licensing and fewer opportunities per band, so to speak. And, but by then, you know, our touring was doing better, and there were other revenue streams from all sorts of other places. Sorry, you were asking what my fans want. I'm talking about money. What I want from my fans is money. We spend way too much time on things that no one will ever see because we love making them. And if you know, like our sort of risk aggregation model is like a label used to sign 20 bands in the assumption that one of them might pay for the other 19. Like we do 20 projects in the assumption that one of them will pay for the other 19. And so how I want people to engage with that video is I want them to love that video. Anyone else?
Can you dance?
I got so many dances. Which one do you want? No, actually, all of them. I think the big success of our band is that we're terrible dancers, and you can tell it. So when you see us trying to do something, it's like genuinely hard for us, and it's funny as shit. Anyone else? Yes, in the back. Are you going to come up and do the dance?
Hey, Damon. Rashid with Juki TV. You started talking about YouTube. Are there any other platforms that you guys release your video content to?
Sometimes. I mean, metrics mean everything to so many parts of this industry, and our industry, we're funded much more by brands and agencies than we are by traditional label stuff at this point. So it makes a big difference how many hits something has. So we try not to dilute those too much. But that said, we do, we're pretty active Instagrammers, and we're hoping to start a project with Kick next week, and we do a lot of stuff on other messaging apps and stuff, and broadly, you think of how long it took between the time the printing press was invented and there was a novel, or like between the time radio was invented and they started actually using it for music. Like, it takes a long time for people to figure out tools creatively and effectively, and I think that things are moving really, really quick. I don't think we've figured out user-generated anything very well yet. I think 40, 50 years from now, maybe we'll start to get a hold on what was really gorgeous around now. So rather than thinking of these things as like, YouTube is something you must exploit, it's like, find the platforms that are actually fun for you to investigate and try things in, because maybe you'll stumble across something awesome, or maybe you'll just be like everybody else and not do that.
I heard Juki TV was pretty cool too. Thanks.
Thanks, Damian.
Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Okay, well, I'm going to get us out of here quick. But I just wanted to tell a little story. And it's a story of this organization. And we started it back in the day. I'm Brian Zisk, if you don't know. I'm the technologies director with Jenny Toomey and Walter and Michael and Kristen and Peter. And we built this organization, and it was because artists didn't have the ability to really connect with their fans on kind of a direct level. I mean, when we started, we had Hillary Rosen come, and she said something I couldn't believe she said, but it was pretty true at the time. She said, if you want to be in record stores, you need to be signed to a record label, because we control all the spots in the record stores, so sign with us. And it was tough, because, you could run a little mail order thing like Simple Machines did, but the internet was here. And all of a sudden you had the ability to reach your fans. And there were these companies popping up, like CD Baby, where all of a sudden it was like, people could find and sample your music and buy it, and you didn't have to deal with shipping, and you didn't have to deal with packing, and you didn't have to deal with any of that. And, clearly there were a lot of issues with the internet because, music is bits, and people can access them. And, when you used to sell music in a container, you'd hold it and you'd feel there was value, but there was different value, a price of an LP versus the price of a CD. And, now that people can get music on the internet, the container value went away, which led to, more of what we're going to now, which is you access a lot and you pay and it gets split. And the whole technology thing is pretty crazy because there's clearly downsides to it for musicians, but it's clearly inevitable. And so what are the good sides? And how can you as a musician take advantage of these things? I mean, we're really lucky. I'm out of San Francisco. I run the SF Music Tech Summit. I was lucky enough to register futureofmusic.org and futureofmusic.com before this started. So when we started, we were, what should we call it? Oh, good, we have a good domain name. But so iTunes popped up. And all of a sudden, there was a way where you could sell your music digitally online and get paid a similar amount to what you would get paid, you know, when you sold a physical disc. So why do you need the labels in the middle? Well, the labels provide advances. It's very important if you're going to make music that you could pay your background folks, that you could pay your musicians, you could pay the engineers. But you give up your rights. You can't monetize it later. They pay you if they want to. God bless my friends at labels, but, you know, like the sir here who says, you know, he's been doing it for 15 years, he's seen one person get paid royalties. It's tough, you know, so what is the future? The labels don't have the money anymore to lay out the money for everybody to go and make the music. Do the digital folks? No, it's more like you get paid more on the back end theoretically, but you don't get paid up front, so how do you afford to make the music? That's the conundrum that we're trying to figure out. But what I do believe is that there are a lot of really good things that have come from this digital environment. You have companies like Bandcamp, where, you know, I mean, when I was growing up, I had so many friends who would like start a band and they press 1,000 CDs, and then 3 years later they'd still have 600 of them. And that would kill so many artistic careers. Now, you just upload your master to Bandcamp. They have a community that drives sales. You keep 85% of the money. You didn't go and lay out $1,000 to start. It's not filling your bedroom. They're paying over $100,000 a day to artists at this point, growing rapidly, all sorts of new products to come. You have companies like Bandpage that allow you to directly target your fans online at the moment they're interacting with your music. You have all of these great discovery tools to discover new music, to discover artists to go see. You have all these new ways to produce music on your home computers. Yes, it's not as good as paying $5,000 a day for a studio. But you can break even a lot easier. You have all these great virtual collaboration tools. I saw we had Musistic out here in the audience. You got folks like, you know, Splice and Gobbler, and the ability to make music with people all around the world and really distribute it and reach your fan base. And it's really a new time. So you know, I love the Future of Music Coalition, and I hope you all do too. But one of the weirdest things for me is, you know, when we formed, we were like, okay, well, you know, there's going to be all this legislation, and it's coming, and there's got to be a voice for artists, and we did some great stuff, you know. Stopped radio consolidation. Kristen Thompson. Won't take credit, but she did it. With the help of the 15,000 people who filed the comments, so she could lead people to parse through and see and show what people really felt. You know, with the low power FM, with all of that stuff. But in reality, we thought there was going to be a next great copyright act that was coming, you know, because shit was screwy. You know, in the 90s, I started the Greenwich Internet Radio, and it was free music and no ads. Napster was free music and no ads. Oh, so everyone thought what we were doing was illegal. But we were paying ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. We were signed up with Sound Exchange. We were buying $500,000 of albums a year. So then when the labels were all like thieves, we were like, if you can't tell the difference between thieves and best customers, this is not really going in the right direction. So we thought there'd be a next great copyright act, and we're like almost 15 years in, and I think we're 15 years away from the next great copyright act. And when that's written, it's going to address the problems from 1999. And that's a real problem, because we have to move forward in a way that works for the artists, for the fans, for the people who help the music get created. So what is that going to be? And my theory is that we are becoming a much more technological society. All of you are on the internet, probably from right here. I bet there are probably 10 people out of 500 who haven't done something internet related on their phone while here. Check their email, check their, send it, whatever. So while these technology companies are building new and interesting, experiences and ways of doing things, you can look at what OKGo did with YouTube, and you can't recreate it. But there are plenty of new and interesting platforms that are popping up. And maybe you can partner with them. Maybe they got funded and they'll give you an advance. Maybe there's a way to distribute and reach millions and millions of people. Maybe you could put your stuff out there in a way where they discover and come out and come see your live shows or support you in other ways. I mean, there's still licensing money out there. It's a big problem when you're trying to prevent the whole world from accessing what they can get for free on the internet. But the companies for commercial uses still need to pay. So basically, embrace what you like. Find the folks online who are who are your constituency. Find the way to reach them. Find the way to get cash out of them. Build a business. Look at the Future of Music Coalition and say, great organization. What are they doing? How can they do it better? At the moment, we don't have a real executive director. We'd love one. Kiran Gandhi, Michelle Davis, what are you guys doing? It needs to be young, not us old dudes. But it's really up to you to step up on an individual level as musicians, as technologists, as folks who are supporting bands. Do what you can to support the people who create the art that you like, because that's the only hope we have. And now, on to cocktails.